A show created by the fans, for the fans. We are your home for Ohio State football coverage all year long. The Scarlet and Gray Podcast, a Network 216 production. Live weekdays on the Network 216 YouTube channel. Send us all your questions and comments on Twitter at @VSG_podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Tyler Johnson, Jordan Dalton, and Nick Leisure.
Good evening, Ohio State Buckeye fans, and welcome to episode number 39 of the Scarlet and Gray Podcast. I am Tyler Johnson, joined by Nick Leisure, Jordan Dalton. Gentlemen, how are you doing on this, once again, another Victory Monday?
We got the Buckeyes win. We got the Crew win. We got the Browns win. We got the Cavs beating Golden State. It's Victory Monday for sure.
Yes, sir. Great day to be an Ohio sports fan, unless you like the Bengals. Then you're a little sad today, but
the Steelers.
Yeah, or the Steelers. But yeah, no, it's a great day. It's a great day to be a Buckeye.
Yep. I feel like it's always a pretty good day to be a Buckeye.
That's true.
I love it. Love it. But, of course, there's going to be a lot we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to break down Ohio State versus Michigan State, just cover some of the performances and thoughts that we had from that game. But then we're also going to talk about, once again, a little bit more about the situation up north. But before we get to any of it, guys, as a reminder, just take a quick second if you would. Be sure to drop a like onto the video. Subscribe if you're brand new to Network 216, as we are trying to reach 3,000 subscribers here, hopefully before the end of the year, and it seems difficult to do that, but we're only about 700 away from that, and it's very easy to subscribe. All you do, click the subscribe button. It's completely free. Make sure you guys take advantage of that. And also, Network 216 and Scarlet and Gray Podcast is proud to be a partner of Homage Athletic Apparel. I'm telling you guys right now, there are going to be some great deals coming up, courtesy of our partners over at Homage. A big Black Friday sale that's coming soon. But not only that, they have sales all throughout the week. You want to make sure you go check out homage.com. Take advantage of all they have to offer. You never know. Maybe they'll even have a sale on some of those awesome starter jackets that you guys see online. Make sure homage.com and tell them Network 216 sent you. Gentlemen, the Buckeyes absolutely destroyed Michigan State. The game was over pretty much by the end of the first quarter. They covered 32.5, which is just, again, remarkable in itself. It's just some of the key stats. Kyle McCord, 24 of 31, 335 yards, 3 touchdowns, averaged 10.8 yards per completion. Travion Henderson, 13 carries, 63 yards, and a touchdown. Marvin Harrison Jr. had 3 total touchdowns, and all right in the first quarter. He finished with 7 catches, 149 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 carry, 19 yards, and a touchdown. Cade Stover was back, had a huge impact on the offense. Tied Marvin Harrison Jr. for catches, 7 catches, 79 yards, and a touchdown. So what were some of your takeaways from this game? I mean, it was 14-0 by the end of the first quarter, and like I said, the game was over by halftime when it was 35-3. So what were some of your takeaways from this game?
You want to take it, Jordan?
That was pretty much everything we wanted to see out of the Buckeyes on offense. And we had talked about Kyle McCord last week, and I brought up the point that I thought he was a comparable player to JT Barrett. I think he honestly showed he has a little bit more than that, than just being a game manager. I thought his ball placement was pretty elite. He's starting to make quicker decisions in the pocket, and he's still taking care of the football pretty well. So we ended up as an offense not turning the ball over, which is always a win in my book, especially when you're playing a team that's not quite up to your level. You don't want to shoot yourself in the foot, and I think we did a really good job of not doing that. So I think that's my biggest takeaway. Defense is legit still. So
yeah, I mean, even without a few key members on the defense, they still hold Michigan State to 3 points. I mean, they never even really sniffed the red zone. So that was always really promising. And it was just nice to see a really fast start out of the offense. And you finally see the game from McCord that I think everyone needed to see. I think everyone just took a big sigh of relief after that game Saturday because he shows that if he needs to go out there and light it up, he's going to be consistent. He's going to take care of the football, and he's going to push the ball down the field. And I thought we saw that quite a bit on Saturday. I thought he took a couple shots down the field that he wasn't taking earlier in the season. So it was nice to see that. And, of course, having Cade back, you can't say enough about him. Huge impact. Didn't even play the second half. Didn't need to. So it was good to see that. But, yeah, just an overall – I mean, it was dominance from the beginning, which everyone was expecting, and it was just nice to execute it.
Big thing for me, and I feel like we talk about it ad nauseum, but it's just you don't go anywhere normally as a championship team unless you got quarterback. Best performance of the year from Kyle McCord, and I know people will say, well, you're only playing Michigan State. You still have to develop good habits, and you need to perform well when you should. Kyle McCord took a step as far as his footwork looked good. He was calm. He was making quick reads. He looked really good on Saturday. I mean, he was absolute money, especially to Marvin Harrison Jr. Throughout the entire game. As far as Marvin Harrison Jr., I know we've talked about this before, but right now, given what's happening at the quarterback's position in college football with J.J. McCarthy struggling this weekend, Caleb Williams and USC having 3 losses, where do you think Marvin stands in the Heisman race? A lot of people are saying that he should be one of the favorites, but there are a lot of people, even though that they have 3 losses, Jaden Daniels from LSU, after having nearly 700 total yards, probably deserves the Heisman. So where do you guys come out in the whole Heisman Trophy debate right now?
I mean, if we're talking most valuable player to their team, I think it's obviously got to be Marv, right? I mean, if he doesn't have a great game, the offense kind of struggles, and if you don't get him the ball early, it just seems like the offense can get kind of stagnant. So, I mean, he should definitely be I think he should be getting an invite to New York. I mean, I don't know if he's the favorite, but I mean, it'd be at least nice to see him in that final group when they do the presentation.
Has there been a Heisman winner that hasn't made the playoffs in the last 5 years?
Ooh, I don't know.
Caleb Williams.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't get it last year, did he?
Yeah, Caleb Williams got it last year. But keep in mind, USC was also in the Pac-12 title game and had an opportunity to go to the playoff.
Bo Nix is probably a sleeper, too.
Yeah.
You say Bo Nix?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Bo Nix, Daniels played really well this weekend.
Daniels was fantastic.
I know a lot of people he's kind of flying up the draft boards, especially with his speed at quarterback. It's kind of unfair. But I think Marvin, if he has a great game against Minnesota, pretty similar stat line of what he's been having, the 5 to 7 catches, 100 plus yardage, at least a touchdown, if not 2. He has that against Minnesota. He has another really big game against Michigan, and we win. Then we go to the Big Ten championship game. We play probably the best defense in the Big Ten, one of the best defenses, Iowa, and he has another big game. I think he'd be coming home with the trophy, but he has to do it the next 3 games for sure.
For me, I don't know how you can give the Heisman to a team that's not in the running for a championship. USC still had their opportunity. Like they were still in contention to make. LSU's not making the playoff. They're not making their conference title game. Don't get me wrong. It's nothing against Jaden Daniels. He has been phenomenal. But like you said, JD, if Marvin goes out and performs like that against Minnesota and Michigan, and Ohio State finishes the year undefeated, I don't know how he can't win it. Because then you still have Oregon. Even if Oregon makes the playoff, I don't see who's more valuable to his team. I really do. I mean, Bo Nix is pretty valuable. I'll give him that. But I don't know, man. As far as a dominant standpoint, just dominance all year, it's been Marvin. And the only time it wasn't was against Rutgers, but he still had 2 touchdowns. So I don't know, man. I find it hard to believe that. And this isn't just the homer talking to me because, again, a lot of Buckeyes don't – I wouldn't say Buckeyes are routinely winning Heismans every year. But I do think Devonta Smith guy, when he was at Alabama, and I know he had a phenomenal year, but let's keep in mind at Alabama, it was really Smith, and then Waddle was injured most of the year. So it was really just Devonta Smith. At Ohio State, he has Ibuka, he has Cade, he's got Cornell Tate. There's a ton of talent around him. Dude's
yeah,
Ibuka's
been hurt. Cade's been hurt. So it's kind of like, and Travion's been hurt.
It's like it's kind of like the same situation a little bit.
Yeah. It's just that I can only really say I personally think he should win it. Just watching him play, he's so good. But do I think he's going to win it based upon past years and how the Heisman voting has gone? If I had put money, it's going to be a quarterback. And I think Bo Nix is probably going to win it, especially if they beat Washington. That could be the decider there. So I don't know. We'll see.
That brings another good question of someone to talk about here. So Marvin Harrison Jr. has been really dominant as wide receiver. Cade Stover's probably been the second best target for Ohio State this year. What are your guys' thoughts on Emeka Egbuka? Do you think they should have held him out longer? Like, what do you think is going on there? Because now he's been playing, but he's not touching the ball really much at all. Like, they're not making it a focal point to get him the football. They're doing it with Cade. They're doing it with Marvin. They're not really doing it so much with Emeka. Do you think that has to do with injury? What do you think is going on with Emeka Egbuka and why the Buckeyes are not making him more of a target in this offense?
I still think he's banged up a little bit. I don't think he's 100%. I mean, you saw in the first couple games of the year, they really took a point to try to target him. I mean, look at that Notre Dame game in particular. I mean, he had a huge game in that one. But, I think they're just trying to get him reps. I mean, I don't think they're really trying to focus too much on getting him the ball. I think they just want to see how he's doing, like running routes and blocking downfield and just all the other things other than catching the football. But I think they're just trying to get him reps in the games, honestly, at this rate. I don't think they're trying to, force it to him.
I think on his one reception, he caught the ball, got tackled, and then he looked like he was hurt when he got up.
Right.
So it was like, I think he is still nursing his injury, and that's okay. Cornell Tate's been playing well when he's been in. And like you said, having Cade Stover back, having Henderson back, those are two guys that have been huge in the passing game. And I mean, arguably, Cade Stover's wide receiver 2 on this offense.
Yeah, right now.
Yeah, and then Travion's just been lights out. And you look at his stats from the game. He only carried for about 63 yards, a little under 5 yards a carry, but we only got the rock 13 times. So he still really effective. Scored a touchdown. They got him off the field, and then we actually got to see some Evan Pryor and some other guys get touches. So I think this was definitely a tune-up game, and for all intents and purposes, it was exactly what the doctor ordered for Ohio State.
Yeah, man. Big thing with Egbuka for me, I get he wants to play, I do, but my number one thing, I want him healthy for the game. Yeah. That's what I want. And dude, I mean, one catch, and if he did react, I mean, I hope he didn't re-aggravate his injury because, man, I really could use him.
I don't even know if he was targeted more than maybe twice.
I would love to see. I haven't looked into the snap count, but I don't think he was on the field at all.
It didn't feel like it anyway.
Let me see.
I mean,
I can see his targets. No,
yeah, I don't know. I think it's just they're just trying to kind of see what he can do, and I think he, like you said, TJ. I think he just really wants to play. Mm-hmm. So he's just trying to test it out and see how he goes. I mean, even against Minnesota this week, I bet we won't see him on the field a ton, but we're going to see him at least to start.
TJ, I do have a question.
Yeah.
With the situation, do you think that affects his draft stock? Because like coming into this year, we're all pretty surefire. Like we have 2 first rounders at receiver. I don't think that's the case anymore. I don't think Buka's going to get taken in the first round.
So it's a really good question. I like to think about this similar to Jackson Smith and Jigba from last year. The difference is JSN was in. Now that class was good. Don't get me wrong. This class is even better. And Emeka Egbuka, with where he is right now, I think he slides outside the first round as of now. But that being, because you're looking at, you got Marvin Harrison Jr., Keon Coleman, Romeo Aduze, Malik Neighbors out of LSU. Brian Thomas at LSU. Dude, this wide receiver, not to talk Browns, but the Browns should be getting a wide receiver from this class. This class is absolutely loaded from top to bottom. Emeka Egbuka is a guy that now could be available in the second round. And if he is, you will have teams trying to trade up to draft that type of player. He's probably going to slide due to injury, but also what you wanted to see from him was he had a productive year last year. Can he get similar results this year? The injuries affected that, but I think he's going to slide due to that production. I do. But I think he's still a heck of a talent.
Would you be shocked if he didn't go this year? If he came back for his senior year just to try to prove a point and maybe try to up his draft stock in the next year?
And that's a season without Marvin. He wouldn't have to.
Yeah.
He would be wide receiver 1.
Obviously you got 5 stars everywhere, but Egbuka would be the guy.
And then your core next year is Egbuka, Jeremiah Smith, Brandon, Carnell Tate. Yeah,
it wouldn't shock me.
Olave came back when we didn't think he was going to. So, maybe he does come back. I don't know. It's hard. It's really hard to tell. If he gets feedback that he's still going to be a first-round pick, he's probably going, if that is what he is told. If he is not told that and told you might end up going mid-second, second round, potentially end of the first, but it'd be more of a risk, he probably would stay. I think he would stay.
Especially with NIL, man. NIL is a definite factor in a lot of that too.
Yeah. It changes everything.
Yeah.
Why would – if he has an opportunity to be a mid-first, not next year but the year after, as opposed to a late first, second round pick, kind of a no-brainer for him money-wise, because you're still going to get paid a boatload. And actually, his NIL would probably increase because he would be the face of the offense. Because Emeka Egbuka would be the Buckeyes' face of the offense next year. No Travion Henderson, no Marvin Harrison Jr., no Cade Stover. It would be Emeka Egbuka. We'll see. That's a really good – glad you brought that up. It really hadn't crossed my mind just because I hadn't been thinking that far ahead. But
I was thinking about it on Saturday when I was watching and just seeing how he hasn't really been a factor in the offense. So.
Yeah, it would be interesting to say the least too. And I'm hoping Jeremiah Smith still commits. That's a whole other story. He visited Florida State. Been tweeting some interesting things recently, but man, if we lose him, I have to get another 5-star. All right. Anyway, as far as the offensive side, we've talked a lot on the offensive side. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about regarding this game? There's not a lot to discuss defensively. There just isn't at this point. But did anything else stand out to you guys from this game?
Just for me, Kyle McCord's ball placement. I know I brought it up when we were talking about it, but he had those 2 throws. The one to Marvin in the corner of the end zone, that was beautiful, and then his throw to Cade for the touchdown.
The one to Cade was
where he behind him to avoid the defender that was coming in, and that was the perfect throw. And so I thought he just looked spectacular throwing the football. So can't sing his praises high enough. But another tough test against Minnesota next week. So
I I thought I liked how they involved Xavier Johnson this week. I thought they got him involved in a couple different ways. I know they ran that little wheel route to him out of the backfield. That was super sick. That Kyle hit him in stride and he had a big gain. So that was sweet to see. And then even a couple times out of the backfield, he had a couple really nice runs. So it's cool how they continue to get him involved and kind of give a different element to the offense. Because, I mean, he is a good playmaker once he gets the ball in space. He's pretty quick. So it's cool just to see him get more involved. And I know we talked about it privately, but, I mean, it was great to see Marvin get involved in the run game too. Because you know what that does? That just gives Michigan and Minnesota other stuff to worry about other than just his pass-catching ability. If they're going to run orbit motions for him to come around and catch reverses or tosses, something like that, I mean, that's just a whole other thing, whole other dimension you got to plan for. So it was cool that Ryan just kind of showed that little wrinkle early on in the game.
Just to go off of Nick, I think one of the things that gets lost is his ability in open space.
Yeah.
Just he's such a good route runner. He's always wide open when he catches the football. But when he has the ball in his hands, like he is absolutely elite. And just on that end around, it's just like nobody touched him. And we're just like, what in the world?
Well, he saw his blocker out in front. He kind of slowed down a little and then kind of like juked over back to the middle, and he was right into the end zone. So it's like, when he's moving down the field, he doesn't look like he's moving quick. Like his strides are just, he's just a complete player. It's kind of crazy watching him. We're really gonna miss him next year. That's for sure, dude. I mean, because the things he's doing every week he just finds another way for you to just say, wow. So you can't say enough about him.
What's crazy too is, and we'll talk a lot more like when it's the off season and we're kind of talking about Buckeyes and their NFL draft stock. You could make the case, and there have been scouts that have said this, if like right now, he could be a top 10 NFL wide receiver just right now. Like, and I believe it. We have not seen a talent like him besides Calvin Johnson. And again, that's not even remotely the same because Calvin was bigger, even though Marvin's 6'4", Calvin was a bigger body than Marvin, but we'll never. I doubt we're going to have another talent like him. And I know if he stays committed, Jeremiah Smith is going to end up being pretty good. But just built like Marvin, they just doesn't come along. Generational type player.
They were. You just got. I saw the same thing you did, where they're like the moment that Marvin Harrison gets drafted, he's a top 5, top 10 receiver in the NFL. But you don't pay him top 5, top 10 money. You're paying him as a first overall pick, but you're not paying him top wide receiver money. So there's a little bit you're locking him in for 5 years. So it's like it is a steal in the eyes of a lot of NFL teams to be like, wow, we can get this guy at this money for 5 years.
Right.
So it's pretty
crazy, dude.
Pretty crazy. I think the argument that he's going to go number 1 overall is pretty high. It depends on who's going to be picking him, but that Bears, if they possibly get those 3, 2 of the top 3 picks, and they pair him with Caleb Williams or Drake May, like that's pretty sick. And then
Arizona pairs him with Kyler.
It's also possible.
Yeah,
because they very well. Then you have Kyler Murray, Hollywood Brown, Rondell Moore. Like, I mean,
or the Patriots pair him with Mac Jones. Right. Let's get on.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that just that killed a
way to kill the vibe, Jordan.
Oh man, I want to move on, guys. JD, you and I talked about this on Friday when we were live. By the way, I'm gonna pull up the numbers real quick. It was actually, I believe, our most live watched show. Let me because I do want to have the numbers just so I can thank people. 430 views off that live stream. So first off, thank you all who tuned in for that. Luckily, wasn't working that day to where it was able to go live for that. But I want to talk a little bit more about the situation that's going on up north. Nick, what were your thoughts on the punishment by the Big Ten that was handed down? I know you were obviously living it up in Disney at the time. I know you kept up with it, but you weren't able to give your thoughts. So given what the Big Ten has done and the punishment that's come down, what are your takeaways from that?
I mean, there's just so much. There's just more and more info, more and more stuff just comes out every single day, and it's great that the Big Ten finally did something, but like at the same time, personally, I'm just kind of sick of hearing about it. I'm just kind of at the point where it's like, okay, yeah, because I mean, this whole time they have not once said that they never did this stuff ever, and no one's ever said like, yeah, we didn't do that. It's just been, oh, well, we didn't know that was happening, or they never admitted that it wasn't happening at all. But I don't know. I'm just kind of over it. It's great that they did something about it, but at the same time, it's like if he can still coach during the week, I just don't really know how much of an effect it makes on game day. If anything, it's going to motivate those players to play harder and kind of win for him, like their assistant crybaby coach said. But I don't know. It is what it is. It's nice that they did something about it, but at the same time, it's like at the end of the day, we're just gonna have to strap up and play, and whatever happens in the game happens, and that's gonna be the end of it until the NCAA probably comes out at the end of the year and finds some stuff and announces whatever they're gonna do. But I mean, yeah, it's great they did something, but I'm just kind of ready for the game to come and we can see what happens.
Yeah, I went and read the 13-page Big Ten report because I didn't understand the punishment, and we had talked about what I thought their reasoning was without reading it, and I read like little blurbs from different reporters tweeting out blurbs, but they actually, if you go on the Big Ten website, you can read the full 13-page report on why they punished Michigan. So the Big Ten commissioner, Petiti, basically wrote this 13-page report. One of the things that he says in the punishment is he didn't want the punishment to affect their current season. So the reason why Harbaugh is still allowed to coach during the week is he doesn't want it to affect their current season. He said, that being said, the NCAA is the one that provided them all the information that they understood that this did happen and that they have proof that it did happen. So everything that he based his punishment off of is things that the NCAA knew happened and had proof that they happened. So that being said, there was a due process there. I think the Big Ten did their due process. They had everything they needed from the NCAA to make a ruling, but Petiti was trying to be fair to the current players in Michigan until they finished the NCAA investigation. One of the things that I read about that was a good analogy is that this isn't the final punishment of Jim Harbaugh. This is like this is also a very completely different scenario, but if somebody were to murder somebody in the street, right? You have proof that they murdered them. You saw them do it, but you still have to go through the legal process. That person's going to be in jail until their legal proceedings. And then they're going to go to court, and then they're going to provide the evidence. Mm-hmm. And then they're going to be convicted of murder. So it's kind of the same thing. Like, we have the proof that they cheated. We know for a fact Stallions was buying tickets. He was going to games. He was filming. Like, all the illegal stuff that they're being accused of, like, it did happen. But they have to go through the due process. The NCAA in this case is the court. They're going to gather all the evidence. They're going to make a case against Michigan, and then they're going to decide a punishment. The Big Ten is kind of in the middle there. They're the county jail, and they decided, hey, Jim Harbaugh, you're not allowed to be on the sidelines for 3 games. So that's the difference. I know Michigan fans are all up in arms about due process and not letting things because they don't want their current season ruined. The Big Ten's making sure your current season isn't ruined by letting Jim Harbaugh coach during the week, but they have to acknowledge that he did something wrong, that the program did something wrong. So that's what I gathered from reading the document. I did read it. unlike a lot of people. So, yeah, that was just my thoughts on it too.
That makes sense. I mean, it's kind of like, well, we're gonna lock you up during the games. You just have to sit and watch. So, no, I mean, it makes perfect sense. And like you said, all these Michigan fans, well, we didn't get a fair fight, and you just explained everything right there. Like, yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. So,
and I know TJ, you're about to go into the victim thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
How Michigan is playing the victim of this situation, and you see it. If you want to flip over to that next slide, after the game, their assistant, their offensive coordinator, assistant head coach that was promoted to head coach for that game because Jim Harbaugh's not on the sidelines, breaks out in tears. He says, "We love you, Jim. We're doing it for you." Like they were wrong. That like Jim had died.
Yeah.
And he's on the couch in the hotel watching the game. But it's this huge thing that they are being victimized by the Big Ten. They're being victimized by the NCAA. Like they shouldn't have cheated. Like
Petiti timed it on Veterans Day, so they couldn't get the restraining order in front of a judge on time. And
that is so BS. You know, and their whole thing is like, well, like the players are going to be affected. Like
no.
And Stephen A. And I don't agree with Stephen A. on a lot of things, but the one thing he said is like they're crying about their players being affected. Like, you know who else's players were affected? Every team you cheated against the last 3 seasons. That's who was affected. So don't cry that you got caught. Like, man up, take your punishment, and move on. And the other thing is they're threatening to leave the Big Ten. Like, if they leave the Big Ten's going to be fine without Michigan. Because guess who's joining the Big Ten next season? USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington. 4 of the best Pac-10 or Pac-12 teams. 4 teams that have great history against Big Ten teams. Like, we don't need Michigan if you decide to leave. I'm sorry. Like,
I agree.
Like, if we have to get rid of the Ohio State Michigan rivalry because you guys can't stand up and like take your punishment, like, so be it. Like, you guys can go play. I don't know.
Play the back, dude.
You guys can be independent. Go play a crappy schedule like you already do, and then not playing a championship game and then be mad when you don't get the college football playoff. Like, or you just get worked in the first round because you haven't played anybody all year.
Hey, you're preaching, dude.
It's
no, bro, because it's facts. I mean, everything you're saying is true.
The thing that is just the NCAA, when the time comes, better absolutely destroy this entire program, because we had a situation where our players sold some tattoos, memorabilia, my apologies, for tattoos, players suspended, wins vacated. Every single
dude, Jim Tressel literally had to leave.
Gone.
And I will say that was against the rules, right? There was a reason we got punished for it. It was against the rules.
And Tressel lied, which is true.
And
so Jim Harbaugh.
And I know a lot of fans were upset, but we broke the rules. There was rules in place that we did, and we had to face the punishment, and we did. And guess what? We moved on. We got back to relevancy.
Won a title. So I don't want to hear Michigan keep complaining about this issue because it's getting really old really fast. And the NCAA, it's probably going to take until after the season. But I think the biggest thing that would end this whole thing is Michigan losing to Ohio State. I think everything stops once Ohio State beats Michigan because they're not in contention for the national championship anymore at that point, unless there's a lot that happens where they squeak in as a 4 seed. But I think that kind of kills it. And like we said it in our chats. It's like if Penn State beat Michigan this past week, like that whole ends. Yeah,
because like they are no longer in it. Because then, like, let's say they go on, they beat Ohio State. Now you have a 3-way tie. I don't even know how that would have worked, but
It'd have been a nightmare.
What's going to happen here is, and I'm telling, and there are people who are going to disagree with this. If Michigan does go undefeated, the NCAA will not let them in the playoff. I'm telling you, right? They will not. They can't have their brand tarnished like that. There's no way they'll let them in.
Man, I don't know, dude. There's
a lot of money at stake.
As I say, it's all about the money, bro.
It is, but they also care about their brand too.
But the playoff makes
the brand is already tarnished.
I find it hard to believe they will let Michigan in, and I might be completely wrong. I really think they would not let them in.
I'm surprised
to find out.
I'm surprised that the Big Ten didn't come out and say that they were not eligible for the Big Ten championship.
That's true.
Especially because it was in-season cheating.
Sure.
And like just getting that advantage. You don't, and they even said, like, you don't know the effect of the scandal on wins and losses. Like, you truly would never know. But because you have an unfair advantage, you have to assume that it did affect some outcomes of some games. And especially this year, if it was in season. So, like, I don't understand. I don't understand why the Big Ten didn't say, like, hey, this year, like, you guys can't contend for the championship just because of these things that have been reported. So, I don't know.
What needs to happen is Harbaugh. Harbaugh's not going to be around to see all this, by the way. Like, he's just not. Next year, he's going to be in the NFL anyway. But
he's going to be tending to his chickens. And
what they need, with what they did to Ohio State for the ridiculous, as lame as it was, and again, they broke the rules. I'm not disagreeing. But for them to get what they got, it better be double or triple what happens in Michigan. I'm talking wins vacated, Big Ten championships. They got, like, all of that needs to be vacated. Jim Harbaugh suspended. Some of these assistant coaches suspended as well, because this guy right here that's crying, he knew what was going on. He 100%, everybody knew what was going on there. And the NCAA better come down on them. And they better institute a bowl ban. Everything better happen to this program. We're going to see what's going to happen. We'll see what the NCAA is made of now that they finally have a school that is so-called stealing signs, because something has to happen, because the Big Ten at the end of the day, sure, they did something to say they did something. It didn't do a thing. That 3-game suspension doesn't do a thing. And also Jim Harbaugh, I'm pretty sure, is the first coach in college football history to be suspended twice in the same year. So congratulations to him for achieving that title. Also, congratulations to him. He's never beaten Ohio State. So legitimately. So congratulations to that.
One of the things that were in the letter that I found really interesting was the Big Ten basically said Michigan never denied doing the cheating. Yeah. But their entire 10-page rebuttal wasn't about never doing the cheating. It was about who to blame for cheating.
Yep.
And one of the things that they proposed, or the thing that they were like, oh, everybody does it. And that was like their whole thing. It was like, everybody does it, but everybody doesn't do what they've done. Sending people to games and paying people to.
I mean, dude, look, this dude was disguised as another member of a coaching staff on their sideline.
It was pretty extra. And
what?
There is a reality where this guy went rogue, and he did this on his own. And I said this last week. There's a possibility that literally nobody knew. They just probably thought that he was really good at breaking down all 22. Mm-hmm. And nobody knew that he was paying people on the side. But I don't think that's the reality. I think people knew it was going on, and this guy's taking the blame for it. It's just unfortunate. And then the same token that Jim Harbaugh is getting suspended, not because he knew about it, but because he's the guy that, like, hires the staff, right? he's the guy that's in charge of his coaching staff and so like even if Jim Harbaugh didn't make a direct hire of Connor Stallions, the defensive coordinator did, and guess who hired the defensive coordinator? Jim
Guess
Harbaugh.
who had to sign off on it?
Right, Jim Harbaugh is the CEO of this football program, so everything that happens in the program, like, it's his fault, right? He's responsible.
Exactly.
At the end of
Exactly. And this picture is just great because he just his nostrils are huge, flaring right there, and yeah, just looks like a complete cheater right there. All right. Anyway, is there anything else you guys want to? I'm sure we're going to talk about this a whole lot more, just because it's not going to end. I mean, we're still getting new details about this. Is there anything else you guys want to add before we wrap this thing up?
I want it to be over as well. I can't wait for this game on the 25th. I think it's going to be a classic. I hope it ends favorably for us. But I'll say this. I'll say this. Michigan fans are going to complain they didn't have their head coach if we beat them. Ohio State fans are going to complain that they cheated if they beat us. So nobody truly wins this game, which is annoying. But
it is a mess.
It is so annoying because everybody's going to have a freaking excuse, and then we're going to have to set the clocks for 365 days.
Do it all over.
Do it all over again.
Lovely.
Good luck, guys.
It's absolutely lovely. Oh, man. But as we're wrapping things up, guys, thank you for tuning in to episode 39 of the Scarlet and Gray podcast. We will be back Saturday morning for your Ohio State versus Minnesota, the Golden Gophers game day preview.
4 o'clock kickoff.
So,
big deal.
Yep. Yeah, 4 o'clock kickoff. Last home game for the year. So
Senior day.
Yeah.
We'll see if that'll be a good tell if Emeka goes out for senior day. Deuces.
Yeah, he ain't going out for senior day. He's not senior.
Well, I mean,
Did
there are a lot of
go
juniors. Juniors have been participating in it the last couple of years if they know they're going.
Oh, well, keep our eye out, I guess.
But anyways, guys, as a reminder, drop a like on the video, subscribe if you're brand new to Network 216, as we are on the road to 3,000 subscribers. We will Network 216 will be back on Sunday morning at 11 o'clock for your Browns versus Steelers pregame show. So make sure you guys tune into that if you are a Browns or Steelers fan. But anyway, appreciate you guys tuning in every single week. We will talk to you guys all again soon. And as always, go Buckeyes.